Welcome back. ActionSA has lodged a formal appeal after the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, IPID, refused to unseal its report on the conduct of the Presidential Protection Unit during the Phala Phala investigation. According to the chairperson, Beaumont, the report cannot legally be treated as a state secret and it should be released to the public. Beaumont said IPID's decision to classify the report as top secret goes against cabinet policy and the Constitution, which only allows such a classification in situations that could cause war or diplomatic conflict. ActionSA chairperson Beaumont joins us now to talk more about this. A very good evening to you, Mr. Beaumont. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Mpiwe, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this.
Now, you've argued that IPID's decision to classify the report as secret is unlawful. Can you take us through the specific legal provisions or the constitutional clauses that ActionSA believes that IPID has violated by withholding this report?
Well, certainly. I think you've got to deal with it first on the level of the Constitution. From our point of view, it's unconstitutional that the policy that is being used here is so vague that some of its provisions include that if two government departments could be in conflict with one another, then a report can be deemed top secret and withheld from the South African people. I don't think the drafters of our Constitution ever intended that we should take the feelings of government departments into account when we consider the rights to transparency and information. And from that point of view, I think the constitutionality of the cabinet policy itself is in question. But even in its application to this particular issue, this is really the last beachhead for any form of accountability as it relates to Phala Phala. The public protector has cleared the president. The Reserve Bank has said it's okay to have 580,000 undeclared US dollars stored in your couch. And really, if we are not able to hold accountable the Presidential Protection Unit members who operated as quasi-detectives investigating a matter that is ordinarily the function of the detective services, while of course fulfilling their mandate to protect the president, in this case potentially from legal accountability. If we don't get accountability on this, this will be the last chance on this matter.
But what is ActionSA's understanding of what really is contained in this report that could be so damaging as to require state secret status?
Well, of course, with it being declared top secret, we are left to imagine. But what we do know is this, that even the public protector, who seemed to go far out of her way to relieve the president of responsibilities in this matter, found that the conduct of the president was unlawful, in that they involved themselves in investigations of a detective services nature. So already there's a very clear indication that there are concerns. Of course, we won't know what is in the contents of that report, but I think the one thing that you and I and the South African people know is if that report vindicated those members, we would be looking at it right now. The fact that it has been declared top secret forms part of a pattern of a cover-up that has taken place throughout this entire story with the sole purpose of ensuring that the president never faces accountability, and that is why we need to see what's in that report.
Well, your party has called the classification a political decision. So what leads you to believe that this decision was influenced by political considerations rather than legitimate security concerns?
Well, I think that's the point. These things are now untested in our country, and in a country where, let's be clear, for the longest time and across multiple presidencies, there's been a pattern of abuse where fire pools have been established as the means by which firefighting mechanisms have been created in a president's home before. And it's no different to a scenario where we are having the information withheld about what took place in the Phala Phala environment. The only way we will ever really be able to know what is in that report and have the proper scrutiny to ensure that if there are ridiculous vindications that are completely irrational in that kind of fashion, organizations like ActionSA can take it to court and challenge this matter. Because Mpiwe, let's understand something that's now very important. The opposition space has been decimated. The GNU has chewed up all the political parties that used to speak on this issue. Now they're in cabinet. They're too busy eating to speak up for the South African people on this issue. And it is organizations like ours that have to fight to ensure that this matter doesn't go altogether and is lost in the sea of issues that are unresolved in South Africa.
You speak of the Phala Phala issue, and earlier on you made mention of the Nkandla fire pool matter. And I guess at the heart of this issue is public trust. How do you think this decision impacts South Africans' confidence in the impartiality, I would say, of investigations involving senior government officials? I mean, do you believe that this case actually points to a broader pattern of state institutions using secrecy to avoid scrutiny in politically sensitive matters?
Well, absolutely. And just look at this particular instance from the beginning. We don't even know truly what sum of money was actually robbed and was being held as cash in the president's home. We've heard the figure of 580,000 US dollars, but I think we're only hearing that which people are willing for us to hear. There's been the stories relating to the invoices of this, I think, Sudanese businessman who was procuring these buffalo at the president's farms. There's been the shrouded stories about the interactions with the Namibian government on one hand, and of course the conduct of the Presidential Protection Unit members as well. All of this information is really being withheld, and this is the real concern. When you have members who are charged with the job of protecting the president, investigating a crime which could implicate the president, of course they're going to operate with the mandate to protect the president and not to ensure that criminality is being dealt with. And really the pattern is one of great concern, and the South African people rightly have grave concern for the credibility of this process and for their institutions being misused to protect politicians.
If, for argument's sake, this report were to be released, what specific outcomes or actions would ActionSA expect to follow, both from the law enforcement bodies and from the oversight structures like Parliament?
Well, we would want to see oversight of this report to ensure that if it is recommending actions being taken against the members, that those actions are being taken. We would also want to study the report to actually see whether these individuals were operating with or without a political mandate when they were busy breaking the law, if that is what this report says. But importantly, we need to really understand how it is that instructions are given throughout our South African police service for the Presidential Protection Unit to investigate this kind of crime. We see this in the Mklanga Commission happening in high definition on a daily basis, how political officers can abuse their position and interfere with the work of the South African Police Service, and our senior ranking police officials just simply bow to political instructions when they should push back. It is a real concern that this may have happened here, but we will only be able to see this kind of scrutiny and accountability from Parliament, from organizations like ours, from the civil society, once this report sees sunlight.
All right, Michael, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I suppose the open-ended question is, what precedent will this set if the watchdog itself uses national security secrecy to block public scrutiny? Great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, Michael Beaumont there is ActionSA chairperson sharing his insights this evening. And his party maintains that the public has a constitutional right to know the findings of the IPID report into the Presidential Protection Unit's conduct during the Phala Phala investigation, arguing that its classification as top secret violates cabinet policy and the Constitution, which reserve such secrecy for matters posing risks of war or diplomatic conflict.